Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, Northeast Indiana is gaining population. How's the region doing it? 3 teen entrepreneurs are turning heads. We visit another endangered landmark. Are skill shortages the new normal? Why are Hoosier students excited over new lunch trays? Student debt continues to be a statewide concern. Esports keeps on growing in Indiana. And a Hoosier paradise for those who love selfies. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. In his State of the State address, Governor Eric Holcomb revealed some surprising numbers. Indiana is gaining population. Northeast Indiana is leading the way. Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership President Stephanie Ferhia joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick with details on how it's happening.
Joining us from downtown Fort Wayne, the Summit City, where there's a lot going on. There's been a lot of momentum in Fort Wayne and by extension Northeast Indiana for some time. Stefan, if you could kind of put your finger on it, what's driving? Is it just positive things happening, creating more and more momentum? What's happening there in Northeast Indiana?
I think you're right there. Success begets more success. I think, a lot of the credit goes to local mayors and, county commissioners and the business community, because they had a few years ago, they started believing in themselves and in making the right decisions, make the right investments that can make the region more attractive to residents. In investment in downtowns, investment into new industrial park, office parks to attract employers, but also make it really tangible to people that there's positive momentum and people can stay, invest their own dollars, and talk to their friends about, how great it actually is to live here in Indiana, specifically here in Northeast Indiana. So I think, we're getting to a point where there is positive momentum and critical mass that is actually propelling forward, this momentum that the governor was speaking about.
So many projects up there. Electric Works, the old General Electric campus there, several $100 million being invested there. Massive redevelopment of the riverfront, the 3 rivers in Fort Wayne. And just, I guess last week, the Landing announced the next phase of that $12 million project. How important, Fort Wayne serves as the anchor, I guess you could say, of the region. How important are these developments for the broader region to attract and bring population in?
Those are great examples of what is possible. I'll just speak to my own personal experience. And when I was looking to take this job, driving by Electric Works on these projects, really what told me that this community is ready to take risks, ready to invest in themselves, and ready to move forward. I was very candid with the folks in town that if Electric Works wasn't happening, all this project did not move forward, I probably would not take the job because it would not speak well to the potential of the region. But, we're doing it, our community is responding well, and we're creating that, impression that it is possible, and, the investors are getting the returns. So I think that, the momentum that we've seen here in Fort Wayne specifically as people move through the region carries over, also to other parts of the region, all the way to Warsaw, all the way to Angola, and in between, because all the investments are happening across the region.
Yeah, you talk about investment. It's estimated there's been $1 billion in investment over the last 10 years downtown Fort Wayne. Another $1 billion expected in the next 4 to 5 years downtown. Fort Wayne Mayor Tom Henry told our Mary Rachel Redmond just a few months ago that is translating into people coming downtown.
We've more than quadrupled the amount of people that live downtown now. And as a result, more and more investors are approaching us saying, will you partner with us to do this particular project? And that's the way it's been for about the last 10 years.
Yeah, Stefan, as you look at that influx of people actually living, working, playing in downtown Fort Wayne, news this week, the Wall Street Journal out with the emerging housing markets around the country. Fort Wayne ranked 7th in the entire country. It's the critical mass you talk about, I guess, including housing and places to live and a vibrant economy that all kind of adds up to this population increase equation.
I think there is also a tremendous amount of latent demand. I think the number of population may be even better, even higher, if our market was also keeping pace, with all the demand on the housing side. I think as we kind of tackle workforce and we tackle housing, and then more attainable housing for workforce, we'll see those trends moving up. And I see a lot of movement across 11 counties on how we tackle that and create opportunities for people to choose to stay and choose to come.
Yeah.
I think, we have all the makings for aggressive test story for us.
Yeah. Hey, Stefan, we only have about 30 seconds left, but I know the region, Northeast Indiana, got $50 million as part of those regional grants, the next iteration, if you will, of regional cities. A lot of money coming in there. I know not only Fort Wayne, but communities around the 11 counties there are looking at specific projects now that they think can take things to the proverbial next level.
Yeah, about 130 projects that were initially identified, for this program. And we suspect that, many others, now that we have more clarity about the criteria, will come forward. But when you look about that slate of 130, it was projects that would advance, downtown vibrancy, would advance, workforce housing, programs, for training, and ultimately entrepreneurship, because also we got to, realize that we don't need to just bring company in, but there's a lot of innovation that is latent within our communities that's just looking for a little bit of help, to create the next unicorn.
Yep, very good. And I know those projects generating a lot of private investment as well. Stefan Fraggia, the president and CEO of the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership. Stefan, it's always great to see you, and we'll keep tabs on what's happening in Northeast Indiana.
My pleasure.
All right.
FIA was founded by 3 high school seniors who are among the youngest venture-backed founders in America. Their award-winning software is a hit with many businesses. Co-founder and CEO Izzy Branham came on the show with more.
Let's talk about how this all started, because 3 young people, you're a senior at Zionsville, your co-founders, 2 co-founders along with you are at Brebeuf as well. How did you come up with the idea to create not only FIA, but also, really start this entrepreneurial venture?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the concept really comes from my experience in digital marketing. I really fell in love with using machine learning to make these data-driven decisions, not only making them better, but more efficient. And so kind of wanted to bring that into the recruitment space and really automate that process.
We're looking at some video of you, or some pictures, actually, in the Elevate Ventures pitch competition. There's the governor. Quite an accomplishment to win and to be one of the winners in that and to get that $20,000 check. Talk about that experience and what it was like.
Yeah, it was phenomenal to be in that room pitching alongside, some of the most brilliant people in Central Indiana. It was a pleasure for us, and it was a great experience to kind of get that experience pitching and speaking, and we're looking forward to that next opportunity. Okay,
you talked about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and that's part of the model, if you will, here. But talk about this software and what it's designed to do, both for the job seeker and also the company doing the hiring.
Sure. If you're a job seeker, we're specializing in sales positions for now. And what we're doing is we're trying to understand, where would you be optimally placed for impact? Where would you bring the most value to the employer? And then we're searching through all of the employers on our platform, trying to find the position that best fits the needs for you. And then in the process, we're completely automating that recruitment process all the way up to the interview for that employer. So we're kind of helping both sides of that equation find each other.
Yeah. What's been the reaction? I know you talked to a lot of companies, big companies here in Indiana, to get input as you were designing the software, right?
Yeah, it's been great. We, have continued to refine the concept and pivot on their, their feedback. And that's really ultimately how we got to where we are.
All right. As you look going forward, the 3 of you are seniors in high school. So is college next? You've got the company going as well. The opportunity for growth there. What's next for you 3 as well as FIA?
Yeah, we're really weighing out our options, trying to figure out not only what's going to be best for the company, but what's going to be best for us as young business professionals, and trying to figure out what that next step looks like right now.
Great example of innovation, young innovators in Indiana. Isaiah Izzy Branham is the co-founder, the CEO of FIA, and exciting company. I really look forward to following your story and to see how things go. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
The B.G. Pollard Lodge was once the heart of social life for African Americans in Bloomington. The long vacant landmark is now in danger of disappearing. Reporter Mary Rachel Redman has the story.
Ku Klux Klan.
The government was intended to be of the white man, by the white man, and for the white man.
Mongrel class of people.
In 1968, the Klan wanted to march here in Bloomington. The black market was burned on Kirkwood.
On the levee, there were several restaurants and bars, places that I shouldn't go to, that the local individuals hung out in. And so it was kind of iffy. If you went in there, you would end up, probably getting your head knocked off.
But there was one safe haven to socialize on the west side.
All cities have this particular residential area. In Detroit, they call it
having a place to go and enjoy myself. And it was one of the places that welcomed black folks.
It may not look like much now, but during its heyday in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, 1107 West 7th Street was once the epicenter of Bloomington's black social scene. Finished in 1950, the B.G. Pollard Lodge started out as just a single basement. As it became more popular, it earned the nickname The Hole.
On the weekends, that's where you would find me, at the Hole,
The first time I went.
What'd you think?
I had dinner there. I had chitlins or KYs. They had a DJ, you could dance.
Played card games and, listen to music, shoot the breeze, tell a lot of tales.
The Hole was a place for the black community, IU community, city community. So even IU folk knew this is where you can come and you can just relax and just breathe and be you.
Jean Devane, originally from North Carolina, came to Bloomington in the early 60s, befriending a then relatively unknown entrepreneur by the name of Phil Cook. He would go on to work as vice president of Cook Medical's biggest sales division, and thanks to Devane and other young black professionals, the Hole got a first floor.
One professor and one graduate student at Indiana University at the time decided that we could make the daggone place grow.
We will have much more in part 2 of our Endangered Indiana series from the historic B.G. Pollard Lodge in Bloomington, including a look inside this historic facility, the first look inside in some 15 years. That's next week in part 2 from Bloomington.
Attracting and retaining talent remains a challenge throughout Indiana. Numbers from the latest Site Selectors Guild survey show the startling impact of the issue. Genovis Executive Managing Director Larry Gigrich joined us to break down the numbers.
Larry, coming to us from downtown Fishers in the Genovis headquarters. And I should mention congratulations are in order because this year, 2022, Genovis is celebrating 20 years in business.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary, for that. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, and we've been blessed to work with a lot of great people over the years.
Very good. Well, listen, an issue you and others have been dealing with for a long time now is the skills shortage. And as I mentioned, 40% of those in this survey say it's the new normal. A vast majority say he's at least going to be with us for some time to come.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing is with talent, it's the most important issue affecting site selection and economic development projects. And in particular, this talent shortage has become even more acute during this COVID period with so many people leaving the workforce and just the changes in technology, too, requiring different skill sets.
As you look over the next 5 years, the industries most impacted by these talent and skills shortages, vast majority, 83% in manufacturing, a lot in transportation and warehousing, to 68% there. So those are two industries, obviously, very important in Indiana.
Absolutely. And I think you see this talent shortage in particular impacting these blue collar and gray collar jobs. And those two sectors, as you said, Gary, are very important to Indiana's economy and shows that we've got a lot of work to do there to try to help address that shortage.
Strategies. What are companies doing to address these skill shortages? They've got to take moves to try to keep people, but also to get new people in the door. Any interesting strategies out there?
Yeah, I think there's a few that most companies are trying to employ. Certainly really focused on wages and benefits. We've really seen those wage levels be pushed up. I mean, a lot of distribution center job now are paying $17 to $20 an hour to start, which 3 or 4 years ago was kind of unheard of. Benefits, too, is another area that they're focused on, but really investing in upskilling and training of these employees and talking to their employees about what skills are important to them, and the employer saying, here's the skills you need to advance in our organization.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, too, as you look at the top states for talent attraction strategies, what they're doing to combat the issue. Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia. As you look at those states, are there things in particular that they're doing, creative things they're doing to try to address the situation?
Yeah, I would say a couple things that they really have focused on and done an excellent job. One would be using their community college systems to do a lot of training, both in terms of training specific to companies, but also doing training associated with certifications and credentials for key industry sectors, and doing those sometimes on the shop floor for these companies or sometimes in their own space. And the other thing is really identifying ways that the higher education system can integrate closely with the private sector and the economic development community to make sure they're aware of what needs are required by these businesses.
Yeah, I only have 20 seconds, Larry, but I know Indiana is taking a lot of steps when it comes to quality of life, quality of place projects, and investment to try to get at this issue.
Absolutely. Quality of place investments and talent attraction and retention go hand in hand with one another. And Indiana has done some great things, and most recently with the READY program, to invest in that area.
Larry Gigerich, Executive Managing Director at Genovis, coming to us from the Genovis headquarters in Fishers. Larry, again, congratulations on 20 years, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Gary. Really appreciate it.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. An Indianapolis pediatrician and mom who launched her own line of stainless steel dinnerware for kids is now taking a bite out of a new market: school cafeterias. Her mission is for schools to toss plastic trays that she says are harmful to kids' health. Dr. Manasa Mantravati joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
Let's start at the beginning. I thought it was so interesting when I read this in your material that the plastic cafeteria lunch tray has not really changed at all since the 1940s. So you're a pediatrician. Explain why it's important to get plastic out of lunchrooms.
Yes, absolutely. So I think over the past decade, we have realized that plastic's bad for the planet. But really over the past few years, we're getting kind of those red flags from major medical organizations, the Endocrine Society, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the World Health Organization, because what they are finding is that the chemicals in plastic can impact children's health and all human health. The chemicals in plastic look like the hormones that we normally have in our body. And so they kind of mess up our normal system. And that's really important in kids, because hormones help children grow and develop properly. And so when they're eating off of that plastic, they're exposed to those chemicals, and it can really interfere with their health.
All right, so let's talk about your 100% recycled stainless steel trays. Tell us about the benefits of using stainless steel trays.
Yes, so I think one of the biggest benefits and recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics is, try not to use plastic, but rather use glass or stainless steel to serve and store food. And the reason they chose those materials is because of the safety profile. Stainless steel is inert. It doesn't interact with the food that your children are eating. It's why we usually see that in commercial kitchens and in the hospitals. If you look around, it's the preferred material of choice. It's also non-porous, so it doesn't have those small little kind of holes where bacteria can hide. So again, a prime choice for hospitals and commercial cafeterias. So from a health standpoint, it's a safer material. And then from an environmental standpoint, it's, stainless steel is the most recycled material in the world, while only less than 10% of plastic is actually recycled. So better for the kids and better for the planet.
All right, so you have your first school on board right here in Indianapolis, the Orchard School. They're pilot testing it. Tell us what you're learning in this pilot test and how it's opening the door to talk to other schools.
Absolutely. I think for me as a pediatrician and as a mom, the best thing about this entire brand, and particularly in the schools, is how much the children love it and how much, this one simple change is sparking so much conversation amongst students. So yes, it's a healthier, safer alternative, but they're learning about the why behind the change, which is really why I launched this company. I never launched it as a business. I launched it as a solution and hopefully a movement. So I think for me, really understanding that the children love it, the staff find it really easy to use. it's like such a simple solution to such a big problem. So I hope that all the, schools in the state and the country can adopt such a change.
So the Orchard School is a private school, so I can hear public schools saying, this doesn't fit our budget. So is it a cost-effective switch?
Yeah, so we priced it specifically to be cost-effective because we know that schools, so in general, there are 32 million schools, 32 million children enrolled in the National School Lunch Program. And if you multiply that by 180 days of kind of single-use plastic, that's a lot of waste and a lot of exposure. And those schools are spending a lot of money to constantly replenish that. And if you look at the schools that have piloted something like this in the past with just cutlery, they're already saving thousands of dollars within that first 2 years. So really long-term, schools are going to save money. So that is our goal. Save schools money, decrease the impact of plastic on health, and decrease the impact of plastic on the planet.
Yeah, I think I saw one of your trays is expected to last longer than 10 years, so that's a long time.
We hope it's for generations.
So I know you're very passionate about changing the system, making system changes. So you started with your home line, which are these beautiful stainless steel dishware for the home. Now you're moving into cafeteria. Tell us about your vision. You have an even bigger vision beyond school cafeterias.
I do. For me, the answer is, Ahimsa is really the solution to plastic wherever children dine. And so they dine at home, they dine at school, but we also go to amusement parks, and there is just tons of plastic and trash, and that's all ending up in the landfill. Restaurants, museums. We've got the biggest children's museum in the world right here in Indianapolis. And so if everyone can adopt such a small change, we can really move the needle pretty quickly in the fight against plastic.
I know you're getting a lot of national media attention. You've filmed a segment for GMA, hasn't aired yet. Tell us about some of the national attention that you're starting to get on the media.
Yes, it has been, pinch me moments left and right. So from celebrity endorsements, from Jessica Alba and Gail Simmons, who's on Top Chef, all the way to being in Parents Magazine and national TV shows. I think what's really exciting for me is that people are embracing the change. They recognize that there is a big problem and there are simple solutions, and that if everyone does just their small little part, we can make the big change pretty fast. And so this small little company here in Indianapolis can, I hope, lead the way nationally in a movement against plastic.
And only a few seconds left, but this connects to your heritage too, from India, and you're saying India is doing this. So explain how India kind of connects to what you're doing.
Absolutely. I grew up on stainless steel at the dining table. Anytime I go to India, their cafeterias, their restaurants, their hotels, their dining tables all have stainless steel. And so it's really a cultural norm in India and many parts of the world. We've just chosen plastic. At some point in that transition, there was a time before that Americans really did eat off of metal and glass. And so the hope is that we can kind of transition back to the more sustainable, safe material like other parts of the world.
All right. And thank you for being on the show today. I know you just got, you're going to be in Bye Bye Baby, and also remind me the other one.
Nordstrom and Bye Bye Baby.
All right.
Yes.
Well, congratulations on that for your home line. We'll be watching your cafeteria line.
Between getting through college and paying for it, picking which is more challenging may be tough. A new survey from Carmel-based InvestEd shows Hoosiers are very concerned about student debt. InvestEd Marketing Vice President Bill Wozniak joined us to talk about the survey and potential solutions on our Eye on Education segment.
I know this is your fourth survey, and consistently there is concern around the state of Indiana about student loan debt. In fact, this survey, 76%, 3 out of every 4 of those surveyed say they are concerned about student debt and the impact.
Absolutely. Once again, not a big surprise, but 76% of the respondents saying that they are concerned about the level of student loan debt graduates carry. And that is consistent with what we hear when we're at our events and talking to families, but the survey shows it again this year.
Yeah, and again, the number, and that may surprise some people, that's a big number. The average student debt is $30,000.
Yes. And again, there are some, let's say somebody going for to be a doctor, some of these different careers that bring the number up a little bit. So it depends on the major, depends on the school, things like that. But yes, not a number to just be taken lightly.
Interesting result, I think, is that 77% of those surveyed around the state of Indiana feel as though this student debt situation, if you will, is stifling, or certainly can stifle economic growth in communities around Indiana.
Absolutely. And again, this is a question we love to ask. And again, a strong number, almost 8 in 10, believing that this type of debt, this type of number does hurt communities. It does hurt the economic ability for some of these different places to grow and thrive. And so something we need to get a handle on.
What are the answers, Bill, as you look at it, the advice to give to parents and those looking at college and looking at many times a big number, as you get the tuition number, when it comes to student loans and the ability to pay for it, to repay for it? What are some of the dynamics in that arena?
Absolutely. On the front end, it's always a before, during, and after. And on the before, we want people to look at what they want to do, what schools, what providers offer that, and then do examination. What is the cost? What is the net price? Not the sticker price, not the cost of attendance, but what's the net price for that family? And then when they figure out where they want to go, where's the right place to go, we want them to do the best they can with the choices of aid. There's so many types of aid. But we want them to get scholarships. We want them to get grants. We want them to file the FAFSA. We want them to do all these things so they get the amount of aid, which keeps the loan debt down. And then when they choose loans, make sure they choose the right loans.
Is part of it, too, understanding what's out there, not just the federal programs, but the programs throughout in the state of Indiana that can help in this in that regard?
Absolutely, Gary. That's exactly right. Knowing what is out there, knowing what is the free money, knowing what forms you have to fill out, knowing what the deadlines are. And then once, if you turn to some form of how you're going to pay for it, maybe it's a federal loan, maybe you use other types of loans, or you also have income share agreements, things like that. And the survey responds again that people are very positive about different ways to fund education.
Yeah, you mentioned it there, but as you look at some of these more creative ways and relatively, I think, newer ways to do it, and that's paying off student debt with future earnings. Is that gaining in popularity?
I wouldn't say gaining. It was strong a couple of years ago and continues to be strong. It's consistently strong over the years where people think, hey, let me use a portion of my future income to be able to pay this off. And so we're seeing different creative ways to fund education like this, and people are positive towards the concept at the very least.
Hey, one thing, too, I know in thinking back through, reading through some of the results, and that's the number of people who are prevented from pursuing higher education because of cost and those types of things. That's a big issue as well, and that barrier to entry, if you will, into the world of higher education.
And so often, families that don't have a lot of resources are the families who are going to be eligible for the most type of aid. We all know about the Pell Grant, right? And then here in Indiana, we have the generous 21st Century Scholars Grant, but there's others as well. And so many families walk away completely when there are these funding sources from Indiana or the federal government that are out there, but people just walk away completely. And it makes us sad because oftentimes there are great dollars available for those families.
Yeah, knowing what's out there. Before we wrap up, Bill, deadlines always part of the process. The FAFSA deadline, that will be coming up here this spring.
April 15th is the deadline to be eligible for the generous Indiana grants. So the FAFSA has to be filed for those going this fall by April 15th.
Bill Wozniak is Vice President of Marketing at InvestEd. Interesting results from a fourth annual survey. Bill, as always, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Indiana high schools are getting in the esports game, and that could mean more opportunities for college scholarships for students. So what is the Indiana Esports Network? Director Nate Thompson talked with Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
Just give us the overview of the need that you saw back in 2018 and kind of what the Indiana Esports Network is.
Sure. So Indiana Esports Network hosts competitions that are community-focused events. They're open to all participants of all Indiana schools, including public and parochial schools. We believe that esports should be well supported. And that's one of the reasons why we really went into creating the Indiana Esports Network, to make sure our local Indiana students had all of these same esports opportunities that students from all over the country have.
And of course, you've had really good, outstanding growth since you got going, and now I think you're up to like 70 school districts, 80 plus high schools, 1,500 students with continued growth. I know you certainly hope for continued growth.
Yes, absolutely. Just today, we actually signed our 81st school district. We're waiting to have final numbers for the spring, but it looks like we're going to be pushing over 1,700 students participating in esports at the high school and middle school levels. This is a huge opportunity for students that they generally wouldn't have had even 5 years ago. So for us to be able to bring this to them, it's opening up a new section of students in their schools and allowing them to participate in their school and represent their school in a new diverse competition.
Nate, this is a volunteer and educator driven, which in my view, that says a lot about what you're endeavoring to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost every school has a volunteer coach that is running everything. Some of our schools do get paid stipends, but overall, most of us that are running the network are doing this in our own spare time, on our own dime. I, in particular, spend a lot of money to make sure our league is up and running all of the time.
We've seen universities, Butler University here locally, Ball State University, we mentioned the partnership with Daleville. So there are opportunities to take what you learn in high school through esports and move on to the collegiate level, including the possibility of scholarships.
Sure. A lot of colleges are now offering scholarships to play. So now we're giving high school students another pathway to go into college and have the opportunity to earn some scholarship money to support their further education.
And talk about the games that are played. Now, I know we think esports, well, we might think Madden, we might think NBA 2K, but it goes well beyond those sports realms.
Sure. So this year we actually added chess as an esport. So our thought was to bring back those traditional chess clubs and allow chess to flourish back into high schools and create those same chess clubs that we had before. Some of the other games that we're playing are Super Smash Brothers. That's a huge game with students all across our state. It's our biggest title. We have the most students participating in that. And that's followed up very closely by Rocket League, which is basically soccer with Matchbox cars. They're little remote control cars. They hit a ball around an arena, and the layout is very, very similar to what soccer is. So students tend to migrate towards that game as well.
This is fascinating. So, and another really important aspect of your esports network, this is STEM education. I mean, and Lord knows we need STEM education both now and for the future generations.
Sure. And everything we do with esports, we can tie right back into our Indiana state standards. A lot of our newer programs that the DOE is handing out to us are next level pathways, and we can directly integrate those pathways into these esports competitions. And we actually can find curriculum to help support and grow esports, not only as an after school activity, but as a curricular activity during the day.
And as we wrap up, I know you have a big event coming up. It's called the Battle at the Barn, May 29th, or April 29th, May 1st. Tell us what that's all about.
Sure. So April 29th, April 30th, May 1st, we're going to have the first annual Battle at the Barn in Lafayette, Indiana. It is going to be a collegiate and high school event. So we're going to have colleges there participating in a tournament, and we're also going to have high school students there participating in a tournament. The reason why we want to have this is so our high school students have an opportunity to meet some of the colleges that are offering scholarships. Plus, we want to give those colleges an opportunity to meet with our high school students, which they're going to know what college they want to go to by the end of that tournament.
Well, Nate Thompson, director of the Indiana Esports Network, we certainly appreciate you coming on the air. This is, again, a fascinating subject, and we wish you nothing but the best of success moving forward. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And finally this week, Indiana has a new paradise for those who like to snap selfies. It's one of a few unusual businesses making a mark in the Midwest. IBJ editor Leslie Weidenbender joined us with that story and more.
Okay, interesting story, one that at least I've been interested in, part of an economic development package at the State House, and that's state incentives to attract remote workers to come live in Indiana. There's a bill making its way through the State House.
Sure. This is part of a larger effort to, I think what Secretary Chambers has said, retool the toolbox. And what this would allow is for people to move to Indiana who are remote workers and get grants of up to $15,000 paid out over 3 years. And then there are some other incentives in there as well for companies that want to have remote workers in Indiana. And so it's their states wants to approach it from the worker side and the company side.
Yeah, no, a lot of competition because other states are doing that as well. Also, as I mentioned in the introduction, reuses, RFPs out now for some pretty high-profile projects, the old jail and also the processing center in downtown Indianapolis. What might be next for them?
Yeah, these are the near east, on the near east side of downtown. And they're interesting buildings because they were historic buildings that were actually reconfigured to be jail spaces. They could go back to their original buildings, or that, there could be a proposal to do something new. It's complicated, though, Gary, because the interstate is right there, railroad track right there, and there's actually an underground waterway right there.
Wow.
So it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, lots of challenge to be sure. Dave Lindquist has what I think is maybe the interesting story of the week. Some unique businesses, right?
Yeah, he looked at 3 companies that are retailers that are just not quite what you'd expect. One of them is Selfie World. And, Selfie World is a place where people can go and take photos of themselves in lots of different areas, lots of different vignettes. You pay a fee to spend some time there. Another place where you pay a fee to spend a little time is, I don't know if you remember these, Gary, but they're these tiny little skateboards. They're finger skateboards, and you use your fingers to move them around. And there's a guy on the south side, kind of close to UIndy, that has opened I think it's the United Finger Skateboard League store, and where you can go and play with them on lots of different objects. And then there's a drip bar that is all about getting IV vitamins and things like that. There's going to be as many as 10 locations of that in Indianapolis.
Holy cow, 10 locations. Okay. Hey, quickly, we're almost out of time, but aqua hiring, right? This whole your workforce challenge, companies actually buying other companies to get the workforce?
That's right. Sometimes you can't find the talent that you need, and the best way to do it is to get an entire company. Rather than persuade someone to make a change, you can buy the company and get not just the technology, but the talent who created it as well.
Lots of great stories this week, as always, in the Indianapolis Business Journal. Leslie Weidenbender, thanks for joining us from Monument Circle. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much, Gary.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.